The world of Adventure Time has an absurd amount of characters, some that are extremely weird,
Unacceptable!
some that are so tragic, and some that are incredibly hilarious.
Your constant harassment of the female gender makes me sick.
On the channel, I've spoken about the characters that have had very tragic backstories, had a fall from grace, and needed some help to get them back on the right path. However, I'd argue there's one character that, although didn't exactly have a devastating backstory, he's one of the most compelling characters in the show. A character that has so many layers. A character that wasn't born under normal circumstances. A character that for a long time didn't exactly know who or what he was. This is the story of Jake the dog and the essence of being. Well, let's start from the beginning. In the episode The Enchiridion, Finn and Jake go to this mountain that houses the Enchiridion, a book that has all the info a hero needs to become a better one. However, on the way, Finn is bombarded with trials and challenges that he struggles to overcome. That's when Jake helps him realize that everything he is seeing in these hills isn't real. They're all illusions. He says,
This place is designed to mess you up. To mess with your head. It's all just trials to test your heroic attributes.
and then he gets eaten. Great. The main point I want to illustrate here is when the time is right, Jake acts like a big brother to help Finn through his troubles. He's everything Finn strives to be and more, for the most part. I'll briefly mention the episode My Two Favorite People, where we see that Jake is having trouble balancing hanging out with his girlfriend Lady Rainicorn and spending time with Finn. Lady can only speak Korean for whatever reason, so when Jake proposes that all three of them should hang out together, he gets a universal translator for her, which gets Finn and LR close. Jake gets jealous and starts looking through his phone.
Let's see. Doug, Todd, Jerry, Dennis, Reggie, Peter, George, Larry, Luke, David, Benton, Mike R, Mike H, Mike A, Gareth Jennings, Mr. International, Mr. Outrageous, Captain Majesty, the Flying Lettuce Brothers, Pete the Punk. Tiffany. Perfect.
This is where he tries to reverse the jealousy by calling Tiffany.
Why would I be jealous of Tiffany?
Because Tiffany's a boy.
By the end of the episode, Jake apologizes, and that's basically the last time all three of them hang out together. Let's now skip to the episode called The Witch's Garden. Why this episode? Well, it's because of this one major plot point. Jake gets his powers taken away by some witch, and the whole episode is Finn and Jake trying to get them back. Finn asks Jake how he got his powers in the first place, whether he got them by some accident or was merely born with them. Jake seems to think he knows, and he recalls that when he was just a puppy, he was rolling around in a mud puddle, and that possibly caused it. He isn't exactly sure, and we learn by the end of the episode that rolling around in the mud isn't what caused him. But it is major foreshadowing for when we learn about how he was born. Leave a comment below what are some of your favorite Jake moments. Also, please leave a like and subscribe while you're down there. Let's now skip to season 2, to the episode called Crystals of Power. In this episode, Finn and Jake get transported to the crystal dimension, where these crystal bodyguards want to turn Finn into a crystal. Now, the actual plot and reveal of this episode is just weird and borderline inappropriate.
I wanted you, Finn, so you could be transformed into my sexy Crystal King.
Bear in mind, Finn's 12 here. Let's just focus on what happens prior. Finn and Jake have a tough guy contest where they wrestle, but Jake takes it too far and nearly kills Finn. Because of this, he feels guilty and remembers back to when he and his other brother, Jermaine, were horsing around and fighting when Jake supposedly knocked him out. Jake's dad, Joshua, actually pats him on the head and says that it's a good thing that he's got no self-control and that it makes him tough. Jake says he doesn't want to hurt anyone, but his dad says,
Well, that's too bad, kid, because you're gonna hurt everybody.
Because of this, Jake decides to become a softie. When Finn gets kidnapped, he resorts to gently touching these guards. Jake experiences visions of his father telling him to let loose on the guards, but he dismisses him. Then one final time, Joshua brings in Jermaine to speak to Jake. Jermaine isn't dead or anything, but apparently Jake and him have this connection where they can see each other when dreaming at the same time. Jermaine forgives Jake, and Joshua tells him to let him finish his sentence next time.
But Dad, you said I'm gonna hurt everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
I don't know, Dad. That doesn't really help me.
Everybody who is evil, Jake. Let me finish next time. Yeah?
That's enough for Jake to start letting loose again, and he saves Finn. There's one small moment I want to touch on in the episode Apple Thief. In this episode, Tree Trunks asks Finn and Jake for help to find out who's been stealing her apples. Jake then states that they should go to the candy tavern, that
I used to hang out there back when I used to snatch old ladies' purses. Don't worry, I stopped doing that a long time ago. I didn't know it was wrong.
this is a hint to how Jake used to be a thug for a brief time in his life. In the episode The New Frontier, Jake has a dream that he's gonna die in space, and we see that the cosmic owl is there, meaning that this is a dream that'll come to pass. However, later on in the episode, a version of this does happen, but Jake survives. This moment comes back later in the show, a much more accurate version of events. Oh yeah, this season also gave us this iconic song. Season 4 to one of the best episodes in the show, titled Card Wars. Now, honestly speaking, this episode isn't lore heavy, but it reveals an important aspect of Jake's character. This episode revolves around Finn and Jake going head to head in a game called Card Wars, a game that Jake is super obsessed with. Finn doesn't know how to play, but somehow starts beating Jake without even trying. This causes Jake extreme head loss.
Maybe we should take a break?
Your turn.
Huh?
You play! You play!
Honestly, I 100% relate to Jake. I'm such a competitive bastard. The only difference is that I've realized how toxic it can get and I've stopped playing fighting games seriously. This episode reminds me of when I used to get matched up against cringe Twitch streamers in Mortal Kombat 11.
What kind of name is Omar? Your name sucks.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting.
Honestly, I'd give Jake a hug if I could. I understand his pain. In the season finale, Billy comes to Finn and Jake for help in seeking the crown jewels of all the princesses in the land. This is to open a gateway to Prismo's time room, an almighty wishmaster. Turns out, Billy was actually the Lich who killed him and wore his skin. Yeah, this is a Cartoon Network show, by the way. Then in season 5, the Lich comes to Prismo and wishes for the extinction of all life and disappears. The pair soon follow after, when Prismo explains that whatever you wish for just results in the creation of an alternate reality. So Finn wishes for the Lich to never exist, which results in the farm world being created. With all that backstory, let's go to the episode Jake the Dog, the second episode of season 5. We see Jake, who's still in Prismo's time room. While Finn is experiencing his new wish reality, Jake and Prismo hang out as he tries to figure out his wish. This is where the two bond closely and become best friends, to the point where he even helps Jake in making the correct wish.
Okay, I wish the Lich's wish was for me and Finn to go back home to Ooh.
I can work with that. All right, this has been nice. See ya.
This results in this.
Extinction of all life for Finn and Jake to go back home to Ooh.
No, wait! That's not what I wish for!
Sorry, guy. You only get one wish. Hey, Jake. Did you see that? Monkey spot.
So it's like everything that happened in the first 2 episodes of season 5 never happened. The important takeaway here is Jake and Prismo's goated friendship. Let's now go to the episode Jake the Dad, where, as the title suggests, is where Jake becomes a dad to 5 children: Charlie, TV, Viola, Kim Kil-Wan, and Jake Jr. This episode is framed as a new chapter in Jake's life, where he tells Finn that he's going to be living with Lady now. But this doesn't last long. The episode is about him being an overprotective dad. He doesn't sleep because he's too busy watching over them, he doesn't let them go out on their own, and he keeps referring to his mother's manual that even he as a child thought was stupid. He also starts wearing his dad's hat. By the end, it turns out that Rainicorns age really fast, and some of his kids are even older than he is now. They don't need him around, and so he moves back in with Finn. We now arrive at the episode titled One Last Job. This episode aims to explain the kind of things Jake used to do during his time when he was a thug. He gets a tape that says urgent, and it reveals that his daughter Jake Jr. has been kidnapped. The captor says that Jake needs to seal this thing called the Baker's Shard, and that he needs to assemble his old team, consisting of characters we saw in his contact list in My Two Favorite People, including Tiffany. Jake then dons his thug look, where he pushes his forehead out. He assembles a team, and they agree to help him. However, after concocting this elaborate plan to break into the vault, it's revealed that his old squad was behind the kidnapping, and they trick him. He busts out of the vault like it's nothing, going full protective dad mode, when there's one last plot twist. Jake Jr. was behind the whole thing.
What the puke, girl?
She explains she just wanted to be like him, that Lady told her about the times he used to rob shit. He says that was a long time ago.
Before I knew it was wrong.
Nonetheless, he is proud of her. This episode again further highlights Jake being a good parent, that he would do anything for them. In the episode The Vault, Finn keeps experiencing hallucinations where he sees this creepy green lady, who we saw a glimpse of in season 3. Jake downloads a game in BMO that helps people unlock their repressed memories. It turns out that this green lady is called Shoko, who is one of Finn's past lives. She has her own tragic backstory I won't get into in this video, but I want to call attention to this. You see the tiger she has with her? Well, it was revealed by Jesse Moynihan, one of the storyboard artists of the show, that she is one of Jake's past lives, something we see a glimpse of in a future episode. Before we continue, let me briefly talk about GamerSupps. They've got some amazing flavors that are super addictive. My personal favorite is guacamole gamer fart. Yeah, trust me, the flavor tastes way better than it sounds. Besides, you know Jake would love it.
If you punch me again, I'm gonna fart.
Use my code OILIAS to get 10% off your order, or you can use my link in the description down below. They've got free samples too. Let's get back to the video. In the season 6 premiere, I just want to briefly mention one important plot point. Prismo dies.
No!
In the episode Furniture and Meat, Finn and Jake decide to spend all of their treasure they've saved up for years, and we get this iconic song. Again, I guess you could say this ties back to Jake's teen years, when he was a thug stealing things. He still has a bit of that greed.
All of this sweet, sweet crunkle is yours if you let me sit on your head. Get out of here! Psh, no one can say no to this much dinero. Money.
Jake, I am warning you.
Money.
In the episode Ocarina, we get to see one of Jake's kids, Kim Kil-wan, take center stage. For the most part, the guy's a total dick. He shows up and tells Finn and Jake that he bought the deed to their treehouse from Marceline. Why does he do this? Well, he's had enough of Jake acting like a kid all the time and having fun, and tells him to get a real job. The pair can't afford to pay rent because they've spent all their cash in furniture and meat, so all they can afford is living on a ladder. Then this happens.
Ah, yeah. I can't wait to wash my gross fat butt.
Oh!
Oh, holy cow. Oh boy, please hurry. Yes, he's inside my apartment right now.
So they get arrested, and Finn understandably loses his shit, asking Jake how on earth KKW can buy their house when they live there. And Jake responds with possibly the realest explanation a cartoon can ever have.
Back in the real old days, it was just every man for himself, and the strongest, meanest men got the best stuff. They got the green valleys and were like, the rest of you, y'all scrats get sand. Once the strong guys got it how they liked it, they said, this is fair now, this is the law.
He basically explains capitalism in a nutshell. Goated show, man. Kim Kil-wan then bails him out, gives Jake the receipt, and then he remembers he buried some gold in the front yard of the treehouse. After digging it out, Kim Kil-wan tells him that it was buried in his property, therefore it's his. Then we get this line from Finn.
I'm gonna be frank here. Your son's a real-time jingle blaster.
Finn and Jake then theorize that maybe Kim Kil-wan is doing all this because he got mixed in with a mob or something, and that he needs money of some sort. So they secretly follow him to his home and can see that the guy's rich. Jake then gives his son a gift.
Father love! I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
As well as an ocarina. Kim Kil-wan has a change of heart and accepts the ocarina as legal trade and gives them back the deed. At the end of the episode, Kim Kil-wan tells his wife that he wanted his dad to change, to stop living a life of a child. But he realizes that maybe he was wrong about his dad, that perhaps it isn't so bad to live a life like that. While a lot of people interpret this episode as Jake's inability to change, I think it's important to note how much of an effect Jake has had in the land of Ooo. Both of them are considered Oo's greatest heroes. If Jake stopped and got a job, then he would have to say goodbye to being a hero. Besides, we see Jake's character evolve much more in later seasons. We now arrive at one of the most pivotal episodes revolving around Jake's origin, Joshua and Margaret investigations. It's Jake's birthday, and Finn asks him if he remembers any of the stories his parents told him about when he was born. This is where we get to see a flashback of when their mother Margaret was pregnant, presumably with Jake. Joshua is protective of his wife since she's pregnant, and decides to take up a mundane case, called up by none other than tree trunks. However, upon further investigation, Margaret sees tracks from a strange creature. She follows it, and they come across this weird blue alien. Joshua comes to save his wife, but the alien picks him up, sniffs his head, and bites him. Margaret stabs it with a pin, and it runs away. They go back to their office, and Joshua says this.
Good last meal. Okay, well, I got bit by a monster, a creature of the night. We both know what comes next for me. Just make it snappy, darling.
Man, this show had so many lines that went over my head. Margaret does some research and thinks that if she can get some venom from the creature that bit him, she could synthesize an antidote. Joshua passes out again, and she gets geared up to fight the monster. While tracking it down, we see something popping out of Joshua's head, and he's in immense pain. Eventually, Margaret finds the thing, fights it off for a bit, gets some venom from it, and leaves. Then we see the monster smile and laugh devilishly before opening a portal to some far-off world. This entire sequence is paid off 4 seasons later. The foreshadowing of this show was next level. Margaret returns, but is now about to go through labor. She finds Joshua behind their work building, where this happens.
Margaret, stay away. Something's about to happen.
Something's about to happen with me too!
Ah! Margaret! Ah! Yowzers!
Hello, Daddy. Hello, Mommy. It's so nice to be here with you now.
Well, that's how Jake was born. So Margaret gave birth to Jermaine, while Joshua gave birth to Jake. Then we get this funny scene.
Let's never tell them how it happened.
Agreed.
And so they never told me.
Never told you what?
I don't know. They never told me.
What's interesting about this scene is that 1, we finally understand somewhat how Jake has his powers, and 2, his first memory was rolling around / dancing in a mud puddle, something he referenced when he lost his powers back in season 1. Again, amazing payoff by the writers. But an important thing to note is that with the comedic ending of the episode, Jake up to this point doesn't know how he got his powers. Now, I want to briefly touch on the episode Everything's Jake. This episode has Magic Man inject Jake with some magic potion, which causes him to go inside himself. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a world where everything everything is made of him. The episode itself is quite funny, but has a very dark ending, where Jake has to leave the world, which also destroys it. I'll get back to a subtle connection this episode has to a future episode in season 10. In the episode Is That You, Finn and Jake inadvertently enter a backup plan of Prismo's to revive him. This is a plan that Prismo created in the past. The episode is filled with time travel mumbo jumbo, but what's insane about this episode concerning Jake is how it ends. Since it's revealed in a previous episode that Prismo, the Wishmaster, is actually a dream of an old man, present Jake agrees to have one of his alternate reality versions stay sleeping for Prismo to come back to life.
Welcome back, Prismo.
Thank you, Jake.
This showcases how Jake is a very selfless friend at heart. I'm also sure that his alternate reality version would sacrifice himself to revive Prismo, especially if it just involved him sleeping. Now we get to the episode Jermaine, where we get the first proper appearance of Finn and Jake's other brother, Jermaine. So Jake yet again experiences another dream he's sharing with Jermaine, and when he wakes up, he tells Finn that the two of them should go visit him. Jake doesn't like the fact that they don't see him often, and even states that he'd be upset if his kids didn't visit each other. When they get to their childhood home, where Jermaine lives, we learn that he isn't carefree like Finn and Jake. He's got systems to follow and stuff of their father he needs to protect. He's out here even trolling these demons who want their stuff back, stuff that Joshua stole.
I'm gonna taste that dog carne asada. You hear?
You're never gonna taste my carne asada, Bryce.
Dude, you can't live like this.
Eventually, tensions rise, and Jermaine flips out on Finn and Jake, saying that he hates living such a structured life. He feels jealous of Jake, thinking that Joshua found him the favorite, where we get this hilarious scene.
Meanwhile, I gotta stay here and watch Dad's trashy booty because I never stretched into the sky and farted on the wings of a falcon, I guess.
Dude, I never farted on the wing of a falcon.
By the end, their childhood home goes up in flames because of the chaos that ensues, and Jake calms Jermaine down.
Dad loved us both. You could have left any time.
I know!
If you punch me again, I'm gonna fart.
In the end, the brothers reconcile. Now, I want to bring up one episode that only has Jake in it for a brief moment. In the episode Hoots, we get an episode dedicated to the Cosmic Owl and his daily life of entering dreams. He enters one of Finn's dreams, and we see this weird scene. Finn is standing with his father and Sweet Pea posing for a photo that is being taken by Jake. We also see this character who was unnamed in this episode, but we later find out about him in a future one. Just listen to this.
Yeah, Nukies.
Sounds like gibberish, right? Well, let's reverse it.
Say goodbye.
Okay, what kind of Gravity Falls cryptic ambiguity are we hearing? There are a few theories that relate to future episodes. One could be that Finn must say goodbye to his father in the season 6 finale. This is also where Jake finally experiences his croak dream that was foreshadowed back in season 3. I'll also bring up the episode Summer Showers, where we follow Viola, one of Jake's other kids, as she tries to become an actress. This is one of those episodes that shows how much of a proud father Jake is, being fully supportive of his daughter. Honestly, just a wholesome episode. We now arrive at the follow-up to Card Wars, with the season 7 episode called Daddy-Daughter Card Wars. Jake and his daughter Charlie head off to play in a Card Wars duo tournament. We see flashbacks of Jake's 20s when he was dating this other rainicorn. He apparently always loses to this guy Grand Prix, who's actually just a chill dude. Jake, however, because of his competitive nature, always flipped his shit. So Jake now in the present wants to finally beat Grand Prix in the tournament, who is now dating his ex. They win the first game, but Charlie just laughs and leaves because it's just not her vibe. She's kind of laid back and into cartomancy, and really dismisses and ditches her dad. So she goes back home and does a reading for herself. She sees various points in her life, including a time when she has a kid who she names Gibbon. For most of her life, she's lost and lonely, but when she reaches her 80s, she feels content. She hugs her future self, and it isn't exactly clear what this means, but judging by what she says next,
oh no, I've been a total wand to my dad. I've got to go help him.
It just seems like she speedruns her character development. Meanwhile, Jake's out here using his stretchy powers to make it look like he's in a duo, and starts resorting to dirty tactics to win games. We see that his competitive nature keeps getting the better of him, rising to the surface and infecting him with toxicity. Charlie then arrives and does this.
You flake!
Be content.
And supposedly, Jake's toxic competitive nature has been completely eviscerated. We see this when the final match happens. Jake and Charlie lose, but instead of losing his shit again, he shakes Grand Prix's hand. The episode is just speedrunning the theme of growing up. In the episode Wheels, Jake hangs out with Kim Kil-won's daughter Bronwyn in hopes he can bond with his granddaughter. But instead, his motivation changes to trying to impress her friends. Again, further showcases that he's got his childish tendencies. Following the Islands miniseries where Finn meets his mother and other humans, we arrive at the episode orb, which foreshadows a bunch of events in the future. As they head back to U on their boat, they're about to sleep when Bimo mentions that there's a cloud that's been following them. When they sleep, they all have pleasant dreams. Jake's consists of him meeting with his dad and also seeing Jermaine there, because as we've established, they have a dream link. However, the cloud in the real world that was following them turns into an orb that begins to change the dreams into nightmares. Following some cryptic dream BS, we see Jake's mother bite him and drain him. She then turns into the moon, one of the vampires Marceline slays in her miniseries. Since this has turned into a nightmare, it's only natural we'd see something like this given that Jake is extremely scared of vampires. This could also represent something more though. Technically, since Margaret isn't Jake's birth mother, her draining him of his blood could symbolize how he doesn't have her blood. We then see him old and wrinkly, calling out to his parents, but they just smile creepily. This could represent how they lied to him about his birth. Then we see this shot. It's that blue monster who bit Joshua staring at him through a window. Jake's nightmare is mostly foreshadowing the episode Abstract and Jake the Starchild, where we learn more about his backstory. For the most part though, Orb just foreshadows the Elements miniseries, where the land of Oob morphs into 4 different elements: candy, ice, fire, and slime. This all happened while Finn and Jake were off exploring the islands. So let's fast forward to the end of the miniseries. It turns out that Lumpy Space Princess is actually an anti-elemental, and she's able to reverse the changes of Oob, reverting everyone back to their original forms. Key point, original. Finn hears Jake calling out to him, but when he sees Jake, he looks completely different. He's blue and much taller. Although Finn is weirded out at first, he doesn't care and says to Jake,
I was really scared when you left. You're my best brother.
It's a heartwarming end to the miniseries, but one of the important points to acknowledge is how Jake doesn't realize he looks different. He just says,
you know, everything looks different after a long trip.
This directly feeds into the next episode, titled Abstract. Although Finn in the previous episode accepted Jake's new form, he now seems to feel uneasy. He says that Jake keeps getting new powers and that it may be a situation. Bimo is scared shitless. Jake, on the other hand, keeps saying this.
Same old Jake.
Oh, okay.
Denial. Every time he denies it, or others around him don't think he's the original Jake, he mutates. And when Finn says this,
same old Jake, if you say so,
his small mutations reverse. Later, Jake has an extremely trippy nightmare. He comes across these ancient worshippers who are praying to this statue. The statue then transforms into the blue creature we saw in Joshua and Margaret investigations. He touches Jake, turning him blue, and he wakes up next to Jermaine because yet again, they keep dreaming at the same time. Jermaine is painting abstract art, which Jake doesn't seem to understand. Then he asks Jake who his friend is, and it's that blue creature again. However, that creature has now turned into Joshua, representing how that blue thing is actually his dad. Jermaine then says this to Jake.
Your body looks like one of my paintings.
And Jake says that this isn't just his dream body, it's how he looks in real life. When Jake wakes up, he tells Finn about his dream and tries to draw some pictures of it. He says,
Jermaine was there too. The weird thing was that he was painting abstract art.
So?
FYI, Jermaine hates abstract art.
Maybe he's just trying something new?
It's not in his nature.
This is a reference to the episode Orb, where he saw Jermaine painting landscapes. Jake refuses to accept that Jermaine is trying something different, and that change, no matter how big, can happen. Finn then asks him about his drawing, and we see that he's drawn the monster. Jake says,
just squiggles.
He then leaves for that mountain he saw in his dream, where he comes across James too, where he says this.
You look nothing like Jake, but I believe you.
Then Jake finds his body of water, who says,
wow, you guys don't look anything alike.
We're practically twins.
Oh, okay.
You guys get the point. Jake enters and finds Jermaine painting more abstract art. Jake seems to think that something drastic has happened to his brother, but Jermaine simply responds,
I just changed a little.
Jake begins denying that he's different, and he morphs into a larger creature. Jermaine comforts Jake, saying that he's painted so many landscapes that they began to lose meaning. The shapes began to break apart in his head, so he just painted them like that.
And it's not like my new paintings erase my old paintings. They're both me.
He then reveals that Joshua told Jermaine that Jake may go through some changes one day. He obviously failed to mention the truth of Jake's birth, but told Jermaine to be supportive, although he would have done that anyway. We then get one of the best scenes in Adventure Time.
The shapes are always changing. Changing is their normal state, like us. Even if we're not changing on the outside, we're changing on the inside constantly. There's some stuff about me that I've been ignoring for a long time. I'm afraid of that stuff, but it's part of who I am. As long as I know the shape of my soul, I'll be all right.
And now that Jake has finally accepted that the circumstances behind his birth may have been different, and that everyone, including himself, is capable of change, we see that he's reverted back to normal. When he goes home, we hear him whistling a tune. To me, it sounds a little like bacon pancakes. Finn is excited to see Jake return home, but more so that he's back to his normal form. At first, Jake doesn't realize, so he goes to the bathroom and we hear this.
Different yet the same.
In the final season, we have the episode The First Investigation, which is also a contender for one of the best episodes. The premise itself is so good. Kim Kil-won comes to Finn and Jake asking for help regarding Joshua and Margaret investigations, the office where their parents used to work. KKW naturally bought the property and asked one of his employees to check out the place. But as quickly as this guy enters, he leaves looking flabbergasted and begins stuttering like a crazy person. Kim Kil-won asks Finn and Jake to check out what's going on and see if the thing that's there can pay rent. Classic capitalist bastard. Finn and Jake are excited and start theorizing that it could be a ghost. He says,
I think I saw a ghost there when I was a baby.
This is going to be important later. Then they start thinking that maybe it could be the ghost versions of their mom and dad, and they start getting ready, which consists of Finn wearing a tie and Jake getting tulips for their mother. Perhaps this could be a moment where they can finally tell their parents how much they love them. The two enter and they don't find anything at first. They do, however, spot a broken window. Finn then asks Jake why they don't own the place, and Jake gives an interesting answer.
I don't know, Kim Kil-won is a good businessman. Plus, I feel kind of weird dealing with this stuff.
I think this speaks to the way Jake deals with death. We've seen it takes him a while to fully grieve, as seen with Billy's death, where he's in denial over it for a while. The two start reminiscing about the times they came to the office when Jake says this.
And over here, you gave me a wet willy one time.
Ew. No, I didn't.
Right. I know you believe that's true, but memories distort over time. Classic false memory syndrome.
Maybe you're the one with the false memory syndrome.
Classic false memory syndrome response.
But then they hear this. Jake seems to think he can locate the source of the ticking, but he arrives at an empty bathroom. When they exit, they see that the living room has been rearranged. They start freaking out, and Finn states that perhaps it's a poltergeist. Then we see a cassette tape fall from the shelf, and Jake begins losing his mind. So Finn and Jake watch the cassette tape and see their parents documenting some strange paranormal activity.
We're making this tape to document the strange phenomena in our new office, like this weird message spelled out in, applesauce.
Take note of what this thing looks like. They then see a bunch of ghosts roaming around the office before the tape ends. Finn and Jake decide to split up and see if they can make any of the ghosts appear. Finn then spots one and realizes that every time a ghost appears, he hears a ticking sound. Then he sees 3 distinct ghosts appear and quickly realizes who they are. It's Finn, Jake, and Jermaine when they were kids. He smiles and goes close to them when baby Jake slaps baby Finn. Present Finn then gives baby Jake a wet willy, and that's when he realizes that Jake was right, that he did give him a wet willy. It's classic time travel. Meanwhile, Jake starts freaking out big time and starts seeing random ghosts everywhere, not realizing that these are just time distortions. He enters the bathroom and hears his father.
Margaret, stay away.
Huh?
Something's about to happen.
Dad?
Margaret!
While this is happening, we get this really important scene. Finn starts playing around with the kid versions of themselves when he spots that blue monster through the window. It looks directly at baby Jake, and Finn tells it to piss off and to stop creeping on him. This is probably why Jake often has dreams of the monster spying on him. It's a subconscious memory of his. Also, going back to how Finn said he saw a ghost at the office once, he could be referring to himself. Jake comes back and starts freaking out about his supposed birth.
That's so not how I was birthed. I'm no melon baby. I'm a majestic womb baby. I'm gonna go hog wild on the next ghost I see.
And it turns out that what caused Kim Kil-won's employee to start spazzing out was Jake himself. Finn calms Jake down and tells him that there are no ghosts and that they're just time slips. They follow one of the apparitions to the attic and find this guy called Clockbear. He is one of the experiments this corrupted human doctor started when she entered Ooh. This was a precursor to the Islands miniseries where Finn finds out more about the humans. Oh yeah, we also saw Clockbear in that dream where Jake has that creepy reverse message. Anyways, Clockbear escaped, but now he's here and he looks broken. He falls and Finn starts unwinding his clock and the time slips start getting absorbed back into Clockbear. As this is happening, Finn quickly goes downstairs and we see this.
Oh boy, our first case. Looks like we have a poltergeist. And it's got a little crush on me. What a sassafras. Gotta get this on tape. Oops.
This is what we briefly saw in the tape. Finn finally got a chance to tell the people who raised him that he loved them. I just love a good time travel story. Jake then goes back to the alleyway where he was born and seems to accept the reality of things. Then, after several seasons of build-up, Jake finally sees the blue monster. It reaches out to turn Jake blue and says,
"We have to leave." We're doing what now?
Finn tells KKW that it was just Clockbear causing the ghost problem, and Kim Kil-won asks if he had any money. This guy and his rent money, man.
Hi. What's hi?
Can I spend it?
Finn then sees a flash at the back of the building, only to see that Jake has disappeared, leaving behind a note that says BRB. Now, all I'm gonna say is, the wait between this episode and the next involving Jake's storyline took fucking ages. Trust me, if you were there watching this show as it aired, you know how long the wait was between episodes, let alone the finale itself. Anyway, we now get to the episode Jake the Starchild, where we finally learn about the mysterious blue monster that's been following Jake ever since he was a kid. His name is Warren Ampersand.
I'm your alien bio-dad.
They arrive at their homeworld, and he tells Jake that he traveled to Oo to implant his stretchy DNA in a suitable host. However, now he's dying because he used the last of his powers to bring Jake here. Everyone on the planet knows Jake because, as Warren states,
because you're the most important person to have ever lived.
It's also revealed that he's been watching Jake at all the important moments in his life. We see this with all these murals that have been painted. But there's one that hasn't happened yet, where Jake has to fight this tentacle monster called Ishkano. Warren tries to bond with Jake, despite saying,
"Oh, I wouldn't dream of asking,"
and gives Jake this belt while he wears this one. The next day, Warren gets Jake to stretch through this gate that houses the weapon that can destroy Ishkano. But we see that while Jake stretches, he seems to start becoming more weak, something that he wouldn't normally be. We also get a subtle callback to the season 2 episode The Limit, where Jake must stretch through a maze. He says,
"Actually, I'll do anything you guys want if you say my name 3 times.
And in this episode, Jake too feels compelled to finish unlocking the gate when he hears his name get chanted 3 times.
Jake, 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 Jake.
After getting the weapon, he goes back to his room where we see him looking frail, kinda like Warren did when we first saw him. Later, Jake sees Warren, who's looking at his fresh new body. Jake begins to become more suspicious of him. The next day, Ishkano approaches, and Jake must stretch through this weapon to defeat him. By the end, Jake looks like a dried up plum, while Warren looks young again. The residents of the town disappear into the ground, including the weapon. Warren then confesses the truth to Jake.
There's no Ishkano. I made it all up. I was dying. I needed to siphon your precious stretchy essence to keep me young and virile. I use these belts as a conduit. The more you stretch, the stronger I grow. I've done it hundreds of times, to hundreds of suns.
The way Jake looks here is similar to how he looked in his nightmare in the episode The Orb. Warren says that he's never felt guilty before for doing this, and that's when Jake starts crying, saying that he wasn't powerful enough to defeat Ishkano. That's when Warren tries to cheer him up and starts stretching to create his family. Unbeknownst to Warren, Jake swapped their belts when they hugged, a trick he learned from his real dad, Joshua. He then mistakenly reveals to Warren that he has kids too. The creepy alien instantly bolts for his spaceship to siphon the powers of Jake's kids. It's also shown that the world is also Warren himself. This could be a subtle reference to the episode Everything's Jake, where all the inhabitants are just Jake. Jake catches Warren before he leaves and says,
"Leave my kids alone!
If you destroy me, you'll be stuck on that rock forever!
My pups are worth it!"
And he throws Warren into a black hole, stranding himself on an empty planet in space. Now here's the thing. Remember that episode involving this dream, where if you reverse this, you hear Jake say,
"Say goodbye."
Given that Jake was stranded here, I genuinely thought that this was how Jake dies. I mean, it's been hinted at throughout the show, and with that creepy message telling Finn to say goodbye, I thought this was the end of him. This is also supported by how Clockbear was there when Warren took Jake away. But in the next episode, Finn and Jermaine, with the help of Kingman, bring Jake back home, just in time for the finale. In the final episode of the show, we see a 1,000-year time skip where everyone is dead. Well, almost everyone. We can see in the intro briefly stone statues of Finn and Jake, which means that they were revered as being some of the greatest heroes in Oo. Oh yeah, real quick, we also see a glimpse of this character in the intro. This is actually confirmed to be Gibbon, Charlie's son or Jake's grandson. It looks like he became a tyrant of some sort, the more you know. During the final battle, we see Jake go back to his blue form to try and stop Golb, but is left a depressed mess when the tree fort gets destroyed. During the final events of the episode, we see Finn and Jake near the music hole. In a previous episode, Finn was the only one able to interact with her because he experienced a great loss in his life, that being Finn's sword. But here we can see that Jake can interact with her too. Perhaps this is because he now has felt a great loss, like the treehouse, or how he thought Finn died when Golb swallowed him. Either way, that's the story of Jake the dog. Is what I would say if there wasn't one final special that is the true ending to his story. You see, after the show ended, there was a mini-series called Distant Lands that were big episodes that explored the greater world of Adventure Time. In the episode called Obsidian, we briefly see an adult Finn, but no Jake. We do however see that Finn has a tattoo of him on his chest, signifying that this is probably after Jake has passed away. Let's now get to what I think is the true finale of the show, titled Together Again. The episode begins kinda like a season 1 episode, where Finn and Jake are fighting the Ice King. However, we can notice that some things are off, like how when Finn and Jake fist bump, we hear a metal sound.
We did it.
Ouch.
Huh?
Jake starts to become a little less energetic and begins losing his vibrant self. Then we see a grave where Finn says,
"What's that doing here?"
Jake begins crawling towards it and melts. The gravestone now says this, and Finn starts losing his mind. He starts calling out for Jake, but then we see that this entire scenario is just a nightmare caused by these bug things. We see an old version of Finn, and he's now arrived at the dead world. Why? Well, because... yeah, pretty depressing. Anyway, Finn enters and starts doing this.
New regime.
This is a callback to the episode James Baxter, where Jake says,
"When we wake up in the 9th dead world, promise me you'll listen for this sound. Just that there's a lot of dead people there, we might get separated."
So it turns out there are about 50 dead worlds, with 50 being the highest. Finn gets assigned to the 37th, but he wants to find Jake so they can be reborn together. A cool thing about the dead worlds is that you can shapeshift to any form you choose. We see this as Finn starts transforming into a bunch of his past lives. The entire premise of the episode is that New Death wants to destroy the afterlife entirely, including reincarnation itself. Finn finds out that Jake is in the 50th dead world, and eventually meets Joshua and Margaret again. They reveal that you can't just go to the 50th dead world. It's actually just a state of mind, that you kind of want to not get there.
It's Zen or something.
Later, Death seemingly destroys the dead world that his parents are a part of, leaving Finn alone and distraught. A portal opens, and we finally see Jake, who states he came out of the 50th because Finn's vibe was so intense. We hear him say,
"Do I know you?"
Yes, you know me! It's Finn! Finn!
Right. I'm just messing with you, Fern.
I love this because although Jake was never really attached to Fern during the original show's run, this line can be seen as him seeing Fern as Finn too. Check out my video breaking down Fern here, by the way. Anyway, after seeing Finn get beat up by the Undertakers, Jake finally breaks out of his majestic meditation self, and we finally get the OG Jake back. In the end, during the final battle with Death, who is actually being puppeted by the Lich, it is revealed that if you kill Death, you become the new Death. Finn and Jake start fighting for who has to do it, and we see them shapeshift into all of their forms. See what I mean by this being the ultimate finale? Eventually, Mr. Fox takes down Death mistakenly, and we get this heartfelt moment. Turns out, Joshua, Margaret, and Jermaine are saved thanks to Tiffany. Yes, that Tiffany. In the final closing moments of the show, Finn tells Jake,
"When you left, I kind of freaked out. It was the worst thing to ever happen to me."
Oh, come on. You still had plenty of other things to live for, right?
Yeah, but deep down, I just kept waiting for the day I'd finally see you again.
Unlike Finn, it seems like Jake did truly accept his death and was content with staying in the 50th dead world. We've kind of always seen Jake being in touch with his spirituality, so it makes sense. And despite everything, Finn asks Mr. Fox, the new Death, to send him back to be reincarnated into something else. Jake says his goodbye, telling Finn to live his best life, and that he'll see him when he gets to the 50th eventually. As Jake ascends and is about to enter the 50th one more time, he stops himself. With tears in his eyes, he follows after Finn and holds his hand.
I'm just coming back for fun because it's great being alive with you.
Good reason.
And finally, Finn and Jake are together again. And that is the story of Jake the dog. Don't lie to yourself. When the credits rolled and you heard this tune, you were bawling your eyes out. I'll admit, I cried like a whiny baby. Jake the dog's story is one about pursuing identity. It's hinted at in abstract that deep down, Jake was always afraid of his true origin. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's special, since no one in his family has his powers. He accepts that things don't always need to be the same, and that change is natural. This episode also relates to the ship of Theseus thought experiment. This aims to ask how, if you replace all the parts of a ship, is it still the same ship? Imagine you began to replace the wood of a worn down ship until over time, none of the original wood remains. Is it still the original ship? In Jake's case, he is and isn't. Over time, we grow and evolve until we stop recognizing our past selves.
But eventually, over time, we all become our own doppelgangers. You know, these completely different people who just happen to look like us.
Jake has grown a lot since the show began. We've seen him overcome his toxic competitive personality in daddy-daughter card wars. We see him become a better father to his kids, a better partner, a better brother, and a better friend. While he has that innocent childlike wonder, he's also one of the more mature characters in the show.
You've got to be really, really quiet.
Got him!
Jake!
I thought it would be funny!
Yeah, the guy likes fart jokes. I mean, who doesn't? His entire character can be summed up in this one scene.
Emo, I've been playing this 72 hours straight.
Can I please save after this battle?
No, it takes up too much brain space. I cannot talk and run this game at the same time.
No! Well, I guess that means I'm free. I live again! win!
It makes sense as to why Jake eventually entered the 50th Dead world. The guy's always been in tune philosophically and spiritually, but in a way, I guess you can say that ditching Finn in the end would have been a little selfish. Their final adventure defeating death reminded him of how much he misses living with his brother. Jake the dog is one of the best characters in the show. Though he spends much of the series struggling with his identity, he ultimately accepts the harsh truth of his birth, which only makes him stronger. In the end, Jake the dog truly understands the essence of being. Please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Have a video idea for what I should do next? Leave a comment down below. Would you like me to break down the final episode together again more closely? Let me know. Also, don't forget to check out GamerSupps using my link or discount code OILIAS for 10% off. Check out my other cartoon videos here, or check out my Adventure Time playlist down below. Thanks for watching.